a fugitive does not want to go to jail, would they jump? Yes. I've had several fugitives that literally jumped off buildings. Hi, my name is Rasheen Peppers. I'm a former police captain with the city of Newark. 10 years of my career, I was detailed to United States Marshals Service, tracking down what they consider the world's most violent fugitives. Today, we'll be looking at fugitive chases in movies and TVs and see just how real they are. 90% of that is just unrealistic. They're transporting her without a cage in the car. That's against protocol. The cage in the car is a partition that separates the prisoner from the officers that are driving. This protects them in the event the person does free themselves. They're unable to get to the police officers in the front. And this scene where her being handcuffed to the front, that's against protocol. You're handcuffed to the back. Because they transported her to the front, she was able to get to their tasers. If an officer rides in the rear, they ride with their firearm away from the prisoner. So they would never sit a prisoner to their right if their weapon was on the right. Being transported in the middle of the convoy, this can and can't happen if there is some type of intelligence that this person, one, is extremely dangerous. Two, that there are going to be others that will be attempting to free this person. If you have information like that, yes, but we will never use marked police cars. We only transport in unmarked cars. I rate this one a 2. Nothing else in this clip was realistic at all.
I'm here. Where are you?
So although Walter in this scene is not a fugitive yet, it's realistic to bait a fugitive if feasible. One, we actually sent out probably close to 100 fugitives. We had a mailing list go out about them winning these prizes. We had them all come to Atlantic City to the convention center. When they checked in, there was a false wall that you have all the agents behind. Then once everything was done, doors locked, and then you have SWAT teams come in and they just start securing everybody. So yes, it happens.
Whoa! Come on out, Walt!
Having a witness there, I would never have them at a scene. Our main goal is to protect the public. So if you have a citizen or witness that is helping you, you never want to expose them, right? And you wouldn't have 2 agents there to do an operation like that because it's high risk. They also responded to a deserted area, which is not going to happen unless it was something that was unplanned.
Stop. Place your fingers behind your head. Walk backwards to me. Get on your knees.
By having them turn around with their hands in the air and come towards you is the right protocol. When he ordered him to turn around, they call that a felony type of apprehension because the person may cause some type of threat or high risk. However, the preferable way is not to really keep him on his knees with his hands up, because if he drops his hands, you can't see them anymore. And now you have a situation that he has a firearm in his hand. So many of the officers have them in prone positions with their hands out to their sides and their palms facing up. I give it a 6 for this scene. See, right here, a car hit a motorcycle and the officers are still chasing Bourne. That's just not real. It's paramount to make sure that the person that was hit on that motorcycle is okay. And if the person that you push needs any medical treatment, you will radio in that the perpetrator is still on foot, not continue to chase Bourne at this point. Yeah, it was realistic. The officers were in a foot chase. They don't have access to a boat at that time. So it appeared that they were waving to see if they can get the captain's attention, to let the captain know there's someone that jumped onto your boat. However, what should have been done in the interim was that they would need to call whoever governs their water to advise them to stop the boat. After he got off the boat, there was pretty much no eye contact. So at that point, they should have been calling out, trying to set a perimeter. It happens to us, not often, but enough that you find fugitives that are very athletic, very agile, that are able to avoid apprehension. I remember we had a guy, he jumps right off the roof, he falls onto a iron cast fence. He literally takes his arm out and he runs. I rated this one an 8.
What color was that ambulance, Red Pro?
That scene is very realistic. It was quintessential for them to use some type of aerial support. Normally, we know when we need a helicopter is when we plan things by gathering intelligence, knowing the terrain, and include a helicopter if we need it. This right here was something that they were not expecting, but what's not shown in the clip is that this guy, he's probably hours ahead of them. So when the information came in that he was spotted in an ambulance, they needed the helicopter to at least gain ground.
Get on the horn. Bring Biggs zooming in from the south side of that viaduct.
Well, there's no right or wrong in that. However, when you're blocking off a viaduct and you're believing you're chasing a dangerous fugitive, now you have locked the citizens in there with the perpetrator. I may have stationed a vehicle or some officers so that each car that's coming out of the viaduct was stopped to make sure he did not jump into another vehicle, but to completely shut it off, I would not have done that.
Put a light in there.
Have I personally chased people through a sewer? No. But have I chased them through very high and dangerous situations? Yes. So I would have did the same thing the deputy have done. I would have had my team begin to check the vehicles. That doesn't mean that we would prolong going into the sewer, but at least while that's being done, we know that the vehicles are also being checked as well.
I didn't kill my wife. I don't care.
So that reaction is true. Many fugitive trackers don't really care if they did the crime or not. Only thing we know is that a warrant has been signed for your arrest, and our job is to bring you to that respective jurisdiction.
Put that gun down.
What the deputy did was actually protocol. He was by himself. There was no reason to engage him because he could have caused the situation to get worse. In a real life situation, had he turned around with that gun, because the command was put the gun down, normally that would have been a probable cause for use of deadly force. When a fugitive does not want to go to jail and he's cornered, would they jump? Yes. I've had several fugitives that literally jumped off buildings. He should have got on a radio, gave his location, and then they could have hopefully taken him into custody. But, you know, he jumped. I rate this scene 8 out of 10.
90 seconds.
Let's go.
Wait. It's 1 a.m., not 1 p.m.
Anything goes wrong, you can blame us.
Yeah, well, something will go wrong, and then you're off.
So they're going back and forth, and that happens. Local government working with federal government is very realistic. So you have NYPD here, you have the FBI here, you have the lead detective stating what he believes that needs to be done, and FBI has a different position, different agencies, different personalities, different methodologies.
Close the island.
What island?
Manhattan.
Arbitrarily lock down the whole island is not realistic. That imposes on millions and millions of people trying to move in and out of the city. It's unjustified. For terrorist attacks, it may be justified. However, that would never come from an NYPD officer. That would definitely come from someone in the federal authorities to make a determination of that sort. In this scene, they haven't even identified who the perpetrators are. So who and what are they chasing? It's about finding out who did it, not locking down Manhattan.
Catch them by 5.
Wait, is that a yes or a no?
Catch them by 5.
This guy gives Detective Davis until 5 a.m. to find the perpetrators of this crime, and it's already 1 a.m. 4 hours is just not enough because, number one, you're talking about closing down the island, right? This is going to take them more than 4 hours just to close the island down. And number two, a deputy mayor does not have the authority or possess the acumen when it comes to law enforcement to determine how many hours it would take for a detective to solve a crime. When you're tracking a fugitive, everything is a case-by-case basis. It could be from 1 hour to 5 years. So that's not even ethical to give him a time frame.
There are 21 bridges in and out of Manhattan. Shut them down. Stop every train that leaves the island and loop the subways.
Cutting off bridges is not as simple as the movie portrays. They don't even have control over those bridges. However, if you have, as an officer, reasonable belief that you have a perpetrator that's on a specific bridge, specific train or any type of transportation, yes, you have the authority to seize it so that you can make the apprehension. However, if you're going to get in something big and elaborate like the scene, you will have to contact those governing authorities to ask permission to do that. I gave this a 4 out of 10. No detective has the authority to shut down a whole city.
Hello, Carl.
Barry Allen, Secret Service.
It's definitely something that does take place. Personally, I've received at least 12 calls from fugitives. In this scene, Agent Call is an FBI agent tracking a fugitive. FBI, they do have a fugitive unit, but the Marshal Service specializes in it.
At my suite at the Stuyvesant Arms, room 3113.
You're not going to Vegas. You're not in the Stuyvesant Arms.
It's very realistic for the agent to believe that the fugitive was providing false information. 9 times out of 10, when a fugitive calls you, he's not calling you to turn himself in. He's playing checkers. He's trying to find out what you know so he can make his next move.
I'll tell you what I am sure of. You're going to get caught. It's a mathematical fact.
When the agent tells him it's a mathematical fact that you're going to get caught, it's statistically the truth. 93 to 95% of fugitives are apprehended. Movies show that fugitives are unlikely to be apprehended. So it's definitely much higher than what the movies and TV shows portray.
You didn't call just to apologize, did you? You have no one else to call.
He was doing exactly what I would have done. When you start to attempt to extract information from a fugitive, you may tip off to him more what you know. In that scene, he says, you have no one else to call, right? He said that because he's probably exhausted all of his relatives, all of his friends who don't even want this guy next to them because you brought law enforcement to our house. The biggest myth that you have in reference to tracking and catching fugitive is that it's not always running around, jumping in cars, things of that nature. There's a lot of paperwork behind this. There's a lot of interviews that are involved. 10% may be the jumping in the cars and running after a person. I rate the scene a 9 out of 10.
Shut up and put your arm around me. Laugh at something I said. What? Do it.
See, that tacit movement there would have probably made me look at them and suspect that they were the people I was looking for. Because it was just a quick drop of the head, it was avoidance. And that would have concerned me. Because how would they know me to want to avoid me? A lot of the fugitive trackers, most of them don't know their fugitive personally. They just know them by a picture. So it is realistic that the fugitive trackers would be thrown off by Captain America's disguise.
Negative at the source.
This scenario, they're in a mall. Definitely not the best place to do it. What I would have done was just maintain a surveillance, and when they left the mall, maybe be able to take them down in a feasible place.
Give me a floor rundown.
Negative on 3.
Negative on 2.
The fugitive trackers, they broke off in pairs, which is always what you want to do. You never really want to be by yourself in the event that you have to engage the fugitive to spread out in the mall. That's a way of setting a perimeter. And yes, when you're in a noisy place like that, it is realistic for fugitive trackers to wear earpieces and then press it deeper into their ears so they can hear the communication. It's not just a movie trope at all.
Kiss me.
What?
So when it just started kissing, it may throw a fugitive tracker off because that's not the behavior that the fugitive tracker is going to be looking for. Many of the fugitive trackers are trained to look for things that are pronounced, things that are normal, because those things become invisible to a layman. The environment is going to dictate what you're going to look for. They just started kissing. That's a natural thing that you will see in a mall. And a fugitive tracker is not going to think that's abnormal. However, for me, I would have looked and assessed because of the timing of the kiss. It wasn't like it was taking place when I walked onto the escalator and saw it taking place. No, it happened at the exact time as we met. I rated this one 9 out of 10. It does take place where a fugitive will produce themselves in the open so that they can be invisible to the actual tracker. Well, the disguises are definitely realistic. The community dictates type of disguises you can wear. I've done many disguises. One that stands out to me, there was a murder that took place in Maplewood, New Jersey. We received some intelligence where a couple of apartments that he could be in, they were experiencing some electrical problems, so I went and posed as an electrician. One thing that we have to be careful when we're disguises is disguising ourselves under actual companies. Here, he's dressed as a chicken for a company. We normally probably wouldn't want to do that because then you put that company at risk as well. Tactically, that's not how the marshals are actually going to enter. They had a team at the back door that was stacked and a team at the front door. Stacked means they would have a line of officers who would have different types of instruments or tools. They would have a bunker in front of them. A bunker is a shield. They would have had ballistic helmets on. They would have had other devices to distract. If you watch most of the scene, it would have limited all of the fighting and people jumping out all these areas because they would go in and everything would have been tactically sound and contained. The no-knock is very controversial. The no-knock is when we can articulate that us knocking puts the officer in some type of risk or the evidence will be destroyed. I would say, just for conversation purposes, the no-knock would have been acceptable for that situation. They hit the door, people came, they were armed. That one guy tried to go into the bedroom. He ended up getting shot because he didn't listen to the officer, and under the baby there was an assault rifle. The dilemma is coming in between both sides, law enforcement and the citizens. The police officers that have to go out here and put their lives on the line, and also the citizens that already have lost their life. And it's going to really have to fall on each state or the legislators to put something in place that's going to satisfy both sides. I rated this scene an 8 out of 10. The surveillance was very realistic. The mayhem inside the apartment was definitely realistic. That's what you're going to get when you enter an apartment for a violent fugitive, especially in the wrong manner. What the correction officers did were correct. When you're talking about 6, 7 prisoners are running, and when you look at the officers, you only had about the equal amount. So to disperse, actually, even to set up a perimeter, could have put the officers in danger. The best thing for them to do at this point was to at least maintain eye contact so that you can radio in to get the additional resources that you needed. So in this scene, they maintained eyesight, they stayed behind them all. When the officer yells, "Hold your fire," I actually commend him for that. So the officer chose to preserve life as opposed to doing what probably other officers would be quick to do. So it's no wrong or right with that scenario. It also depends on the officer's athletic ability, his strength, which it seems like, it's hard to do when you're carrying a big rifle as well and trying to board a train. So they weren't able to make the train and the 2 prisoners got away. My favorite fugitive chase in a movie or TV show happens to be a show that I was a part of called Manhunters, and the episode was called Hide and Seek. This apprehension was so fast-paced that my adrenaline for at least a good 2 hours just kept going. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, click on the video above.